Project Management 3. So we are right now in the heart of project management. We'll be covering network analysis, network diagram, AOA. AOA stands for activity on arc or activity on arrow, and activity on node, AON. AOA conventions, activity on arc conventions, node labeling, time management, critical path method, slack and float, forward and backward pass, and starting and times. So I would like to thank Mr. Chatwal, an ex-senior colleague of mine. A gentleman has written this book, Hotel Facility Planning. The content of this book is what I have tried to elucidate in these videos. Network analysis. So network analysis, it is the determination of an optimum sequence of performing certain network or jobs in order to minimize overall time and or cost. So either you save time or you save cost, or you save both time and you save both cost. So network analysis takes into consideration time, resource profile, the project activity, etc. required at the optimal course of action involving the time, while keeping in view the available resources, which will be the constraints, right? So that is what the analysis is about. You have constraints and you have achievement, which is supposed to happen within a given budgeted time and at a budgeted cost. All of this has to happen in a sequence relation. So of the various programs we are going to talk, of the various techniques, we're going to talk about the PERT, which is the Program Evaluation and Review Technique, PERT, and the critical path methods. In this video, we will be focusing more on the critical path method. The third part of it will be taken up perhaps in the next video. So networks are graphical or mathematical structures. We have studied this definition made of two entities. We already know they are nodes and activity, or they are also called arcs. So so the nodes are usually in terms of circles or squares, and they are connected to each other by arrows, which represents the activities. Network diagram. So we look at the standard conventions of network diagram. We already are aware of what a node is, and we also know what the activity is, right? So a node is a point wherein one or more activities might either meet up or will originate from. Either it will originate from a node activity or it will meet up in a node. Sometimes it originates from a node and meets up in a different node also. So we talked about two conventions like we spoke before. One is called the activity on arc, or it's also called activity on arrow. In some places it's activity on arrow, AOA, and activity on node, which is AON. These are the two conventions that are followed for activity, so for your network diagram. So if you were to compare between the two, how they look like, it's as follows. So if you look at AOA, this is what we're going to focus more on, because in this particular textbook, this is the technique which is followed, whereas AON is not followed. However, for us to understand AON, I should be briefly touching on what this AON is. Right? So activity on arrow, or also called activity on arc as far as this book is concerned. So the arrows are the activities. So if you have activity, then typically the activity A is written above the arrow, and below the arrow you have the time. Maybe it is 2 days or 1 day or 1 week or whatever it is. So the time is written below. That is as per the convention. In any case, it is the arrows which are representing the activities. So as you can see, this is a linear series of linear activities happening over here, and over here, which is the activity on node, the same series of activities A, B, and C which are happening. They are represented by nodes. The activities are in the nodes in this particular. So A is activity, B is activity, C is activity. All of these are being represented by nodes over here. So this is the main difference between the two. So we don't require to focus on AON. We will focus only on AOA because all the examples solved problems are based on this AOA over here. Activity on arrow or activity on arc. So over here we have a diagram of activity on arc. Now typically as the process called for, you have the activities listed and arranged. So you have all these activities which are listed and arranged over here, right? And you also write down the predecessor activities. What happens for that? Now because A is the starting activity, it does not have any predecessor activity. Obviously, if an activity is the starting activity of a project, then it cannot have a predecessor activity. Now then the next activity in sequence is B, predecessor is A. So all of it, as you can see, it is arranged in a sequence, right? You first of all list it down and arrange it in a sequence. Now that it is in a sequence, let's have a look at the activities. So first of all, you have activity A. This is activity A. This does not have any preceding activity. There is no preceding activity over here. And then it is followed by activity B. So as you can see, activity B is preceded by activity A as far as the table goes. So you have activity B and preceding it you have activity A. Now you also have activity C which precedes activity A. So which means B and C are both happening after the activity A gets over. They are happening simultaneously. Right, they are happening together, or they can happen together. And then after C, what happens? After B, what happens is D. Now for D to happen, B must have happened earlier. So it is the immediate predecessor of B is the immediate predecessor of D. Similarly, for activity E to happen, activity C should have happened. So C is the predecessor of E, and for activity G to happen, activity E should have happened. Similarly, you have all these predecessors in place. Activity F to happen, for activity F to happen, activity D should have happened, right? And for activity H to happen, you should have both activity F as well as activity G to have happened. You see, for activity H, you should have F and activity G to have happened. As you can see over here, you have both G as well as F, which has happened before H is happening over here. So we talk about the conventions of AOA, which is activity on arc or activity on arrow. So we already know about it. It is represented on arrow, and the name of the activity is on top of it and the timing is below it, right? So again over here you have activities which have predecessors and you have successors, right? Nodes are not numbered. As far as your AOA convention is there, nodes need not be numbered. So over here, this particular activity which is shown over here, you have activity A and B, which are the starting activities. So you have two starting activities, activity A, activity B. There are no predecessors activities that you can see happen, right? So they happen from a common node, right? Followed by activities C and A. So yeah, basically we have understood the concept of this. Typically, let's look at this particular thing. Activity E can happen only after C and D have happened. What does that mean? This is activity E, and E can only happen after activity C has happened, activity D has happened. Similarly, you have activity I, which can happen. Activity I, which can happen only after F and H has happened. So you have activity F and activity H, and after activity I has happened, there are no succeeding activities. So that is the terminating activity actually. And these are all examples over here, pretty much on same lines. Now typically this activity over here. Now if you are looking at activity B, right, now for activity E to have happened, activity B should have happened. Now B, as you can see, is a starting activity, right? It has got no predecessor. A, B and C are three starting activities, right? So from this point also you can see A, B and C are three starting activities, and C is followed by D, right? Yeah, C is followed by D because C is the predecessor of D, which means after activity C happens, D has to happen, right? And similarly, activity E, for activity E to have happened, A and B should have both happened, right? So you have E, which is the predecessor of which is A. Now, if activity B was to be represented, right, uh, then typically, then maybe a arrow like this would have to be drawn. But then, as you know, this is not an accepted convention. You cannot draw a loop, so you're required to draw a dummy activity over here. So instead of making this as the node for activity B to finish, you have this as a node and you make a dummy dotted activity connecting this node to the node for activity E to start. So that is how this example also you have. Once again, for E to have happened, D should have happened. You see, for F to have happened, D should have happened and E should have happened. You see, for F to have happened, D and E and D should have happened, right? So if you have already connected D over here, now you cannot have a direct loop over here. This is against convention. So you have to create a dumb activity, which is a different node, followed by a dotted dummy activity over here, which is your D2, right? So this is a part of the convention. Two events are joined at most by one arrow. This is the reason that you have the dummy activities. So if that were not the case, then you would have these loops coming in. So two events cannot be joined by more than one arrow. That is the rule. Two events are joined at most by one arrow. Node labeling. So node labeling, usually the first node is called 1, 2. So in the sequence that it happens, those nodes are called 1, 2, 3 and so on. That is the long and short of it. Right. So you have the time management of projects. Now, when we have understood about nodes, we have understood about activity, and each activity, for it to be completed, there is something called the activity time. So we know that, right? So you have basically two kind of projects. You have the kind of projects where you have a sufficiently accurate estimate of time of the activity. Now, for example, if your project is to prepare your project is to prepare a new office building, so it's not something new. It's not the first time somebody is making a building. So you would have a fairly good estimate of what the time required to make a building of this kind of a 10-floor building in Hyderabad. So anyone with experience does know that what is the kind of estimate. But there are some activities or some projects in which the estimation of activity time is very difficult. Now, for example, when India first started with the let's say one of the PSLV satellites, yeah, or the Agni missile, or Shah Jahan started with this Taj Mahal project. So one never knows what is the kind of time from, what is the kind of cost that is required to finish it, the kind of manpower. You keep doing it and you figure out how it goes. So those are projects where estimation of activity time is difficult, right? So we are basically trying to figure out, there are some projects where you have sufficiently accurate estimates and some in which you don't have a very clear estimate, or it is difficult to estimate. So the first type of projects are done by something called the CPM method, or it's called the critical path method, right? The second one is done by the PERT technique, right? So we will not be talking about PERT technique in this video. We will be talking about it only in the next video. All right, we're talking about your CPM, critical part. Over here. So here we have tabulated down the activities that are required. A, B, C, D, and E are required, and then immediate predecessor. There are no immediate predecessors to A and B. It means A and B are the starting activities, right? Over here you see the beginning of the arrow. You have the start time, so it is 0 because there is no activity in the preceding it. The start time is 0. It's the beginning. This is the start point. This node is the start node. So you have the time frame starting over for activity A, which is 0, and it finishes at 2, which means the particular activity takes 2 days over here. You see it says that activity A takes 2 days. So similarly activity B takes 4 days. So you put 4 over here, and you have 0 in the beginning of the node, and you have 4 at the end of the node. So difference between 4 and 0 is 4 days. Similarly, all the activities, activity C is also labeled at it requires 3 days for completion. Activity A requires 2 days, activity B requires 4 days, activity D requires 2 days, activity E requires 3 days. So this is the long and short of it. Now if we were to look at these activities, right, so this particular diagram that we have called, as you know, is a network. So we have drawn a network considering the duration of each of the activities. Now over here there is something pretty interesting. Now typically for E to happen, C and D should have both finished, right? But for C to finish, it's going to take only 2 days of A and 3 days for C to finish. So within 5 days, process C is finished, right? But for D to finish, you require 4 days of B and you require 2 days of B. So you require 6 days for the process D to get completed, right? So what happens is, if there's a delay in this path, either A gets delayed by a day or C gets delayed by a day, I mean for E to get executed there is no problem, because in any case E cannot get executed without B getting executed and C getting executed. So even if C or A get delayed by 1 day, instead of 5 days time, it gets finished in 6 days, which is okay, because D in any case will take 6 days. So this is what a little bit of our discussion following, the following discussion is going to be about what is called the critical path method, what is the slack time and float time and so on. Earliest finishing time, latest finishing time, earliest start time, latest start time, all of these will be a part of this particular discussion. So if you have understood this part well, you should not have understanding the rest of it. If not, I would request you to pause, rewind this slide, and once again hear me through the last 2-3 slides. Okay, so this is an analysis. So this part of this slide, it's an analysis of the previous slide, right? So we were talking about the previous slide, in which you have got you start with 2 activities, activity A, and then you have activity B, which happens. Activity A is followed by activity C, activity B is followed by activity D. You require to have both C and D completed to start with what is called activity E. So activity E, you require completion of both C and D. This was the premises of the previous slide that we talked about. And so here what we said is the path that we go from A through C to E. So A is supposed to have taken certain number of days. I think A was supposed to take 2 days, B was supposed to take, C was supposed to take 3 days. So activity C is over by 5 days. Activity C is over. But for activity D to get over, because B takes 4 days and D takes 2 days, activity D takes 6 days to get over. So in short, for this particular path, right, it takes 6 days, yeah, plus 3, which is 6 plus 3, which is 9 days for this particular path. And for this particular path, right, which is from A through C through E, it takes you 5 days to complete up to C, and then 3, which is 5 plus 3 is 8 days. So we're talking about 8 days over there. So there are two paths that we are talking about that is important. The activity, because the simultaneous activity is happening, it has taken up two paths. One path takes 8 days, the other path takes 9 days, right? And the path of the activities meet at a junction node, right? Which is junction node where activity C and D are converging. That is the junction node, because both are converging on the same node over here. Both are converging at the same node at this point. That is, activity C is also joining at this node, and activity D is also joining at this node only. Alright, so activity E cannot start until 6th day. So we have discussed about this already, and hence the project duration is 6 plus 3 equal to 9 days. Now, first path, which is the path, this path, it takes, as we discussed, it takes 8 days. This particular path, which is from B to D to E, that takes up 9 days, right? So so path B, it takes 9 days, path A, it takes 8 days. So if there's a delay of 1 day in this particular path, that's not a problem, because in activity A or activity C, if there's a delay, then it is made up, because you still have 1 day spare time. It is in any case going to finish in 5 days, but the activity B and D will not finish till the 6th day, right? So the path which takes longer time, which is BDE, it's the longer time. Any delay that would happen in these activities will certainly affect the project completion time. So if there is 1 day delay in the other path, there is no delay in the project completion time. But if there is a delay in path B, obviously your project will get delayed. Therefore, since this path you cannot accommodate any delay, this is called the critical path, right? Which is path BDE, right? You have B, you have D, and then you have E. This path is called the this path is called the critical path. This is the critical path over here, right? And B and D are said to be the critical activities, because over here any delay is something which cannot be made up in any case. So critical path, in short, it is the longest path to a network, right? And critical activities are what? They're all activities associated with the critical path. They are called the critical activities. So the length of the critical path determines the minimum time in which the entire project can be completed, right? So the longest time that the route takes is the minimum time in which the project can be completed. And the activities in the critical path are called the critical activities, or also called bottleneck activities. The critical activities or bottleneck activities. Any delay in these activities will delay the whole project, right? So therefore, if you want to reduce the project timing also, then this is the path that one must take care of. So let us say you want to reduce the project timing to the project to finish in 8 days. So which would mean the path BDE. On this particular path, you require to focus to be able to finish the project 8 days, because A and C would finish 1 day earlier in any case. Okay, logical analysis of timing of project activities. Now, based on these different paths, we have got a couple of new definitions coming. One is the earliest start time, second is called the latest start time, the earliest finish time and the latest finish time, right? That is for each activity. For each activity, you have got the earliest and the latest start time, right? Now, for understanding what these are, right? Let us just first start with understanding that we take the time estimates as as EST, right? EST is the earliest time, right? And earliest start time, and similarly EFT is the earliest finish time for an activity. EFT earliest finish time, EST earliest start time. And similarly we have got the LST. The LST is the latest start time and the latest finishing time, right? So what these are, what this LST and LFT are, we will understand shortly after considering an example. Now, one important part is, if you have got the estimated time to finish a particular activity as T, let us say, for an activity A to happen. Now, let us just call it, for example, E to happen, right? For an activity E to happen. The estimated time for this is, let us say, 5 days for activity E to happen, right? Now, if activity E happens, it happens after A, B, C and D. So depending on which path it's coming through, whether there's a delay that happens, or whichever is the longest path. Let us say, as in the previous example, we said that we had B and D activities which are happening, which takes a longer period. It takes, let us say, 6 days. So for activity E to start, the earliest it can start is the 6th day, right? And then activity itself, if it takes 5 days, then it is 6 plus 5, 11 days is the earliest that this can finish, right? Let us say hypothetically, if a certain task can finish, the latest that it can finish is let's say 13 days. So if task E can finish the latest in 13 days, we'll come to how and what, etc. But if you just want to understand that the latest that the task can finish is 13 days, and the task is 5 days to finish, then 13 minus 5 equal to 8 days is the earliest, is the latest start time. So you see, you have the latest start time over here, which is the difference between the latest finishing time and the estimated time. Now there are two ways of looking at activity. Activity, we could look at it in terms of how it goes in the forward direction, right? We start with 0, we start with the forward direction, or we start in the backward direction. Activity, for it to finish, will take so much time. Before that, you might require 2 more activities to happen. Before that, you might have another series of 2 or 3 more activities to happen, and so on. So this is one way of looking, and this is one way of looking. This way of looking forward is called the forward pass, and this way of looking, where you are starting from the end activity, is called the backward pass, right? So now you have got the earliest finishing time and the earliest start. You have got something called the earliest start time also, right? So the earliest start time is essentially the largest estimated finishing time, the earliest finishing time of the previous predecessors. Like, let's say, for if you have a task C. Now for task C, the earliest start time will be 6 if the two activities B and A are completed within the 6 days. So if the finishing task of activity C is 6, which is the earliest finishing is the of activity B is 6 days, in that case the earliest start of activity C is also 6 days. So they have earliest finishing time once again is the earliest start time plus T. Now, like over here we said 6 days is the time required for activity 6 to start, so C to start, and C activity takes, let us say, hypothetically 2 days. So the earliest finishing that can happen is 6 plus 2, which is if you look over here, earliest start is 6 and the time required is 2. So the earliest finishing time is 8 days over here, right? This is called the forward pass. The backward pass is, like I said, looking at in the opposite direction. So if you look at the opposite direction, so you have got the latest finishing time and the latest start time. So the latest finishing time is the smallest latest start time of all immediate successors of task, right? So let us say if you have so essentially now if you're looking at the latest finishing time, so we're looking at latest finishing time, which is the smallest latest start time of immediate successor, right? So now over here, now when I put the arrow over here, it does not mean the process is this side, the process is moving in this direction, right? But we are looking at it in terms of the finishing and starting times in this fashion, right? So now if you are looking at this particular process, right, if you are looking at the process, let's say that this particular process was process let's say D, and this was process E over here. So we need to see that the latest finishing time, right, the latest finishing time for D, right, it is actually the latest start time of E, right? I mean, it is basically looking at one way or the other. The finishing time for the predecessor is the starting time of the successor. So the latest finishing time of a certain process is the smallest latest start time of its successor, not the predecessor over here, the successor. So E is the successor of D. So we are talking about the successor, which is E. We are talking about that. So important part is during the forward pass phase, we move from left to right through the part of the CPM network and compute the earliest start time and the earliest finishing time, right? So forward time is for the earliest start time and the earliest finishing time. The backward pass, it moves from right to left, right? Process does not move. The process moves as usual from left to right only, but we look at it from the end towards the beginning. That's why it's called the backward pass, right? And then in this backward pass, we can compute the latest finishing time of the project, which is essentially same as the earliest latest start time of the successor. Right, we talk about slack or float. So when you have, we now know that there's something called the earliest start time and the latest start time and the earliest finishing time and the latest finishing time for any particular activity. So the difference between the earliest start time and the latest start time or the earliest finishing time and the latest finishing time, this is called the slack. So slack is something which is present on what is called the non-critical task. The critical task do not have any slack which is there, right? Uh, Let me elaborate. Now over here now you have basically uh, these tasks which are here, B and D. Now over here you don't have anything called the earliest finishing time or the earliest latest finishing time. So latest start time and so on. So you only have a fixed path over here where any delay in B happening or D happening, it would simply mean there's a delay in the project, right? So over here you do not have any slack over here, right? Whereas in process A or in process C, even if there's a 1 day slack, it will still, instead of finishing in 5 days, it will finish in 6 days. So it belongs to the non-critical path, or they are non-critical tasks, right? So slack, as you can see, is the difference between earliest start time and earliest finish time, right? These are non-critical activities that can be delayed up to the amount of slack. So in case of A and C, you have a slack of up to 1 day. Beyond that, of course, you cannot delay it over there. Critical path. Now, every object will have at least one critical path, right? So every project will have at least one critical path. The project completion time is the sum of task, sum of the task time for the task on the critical path. That is the project completion time, because that is the path along which any particular delay is not an acceptable delay. Before that, all the other tasks are finished. So the critical path takes the longest time. Project completion time is the sum of activities for activities in the critical path. Yeah. So in case there is a delay in the critical path, right? Let us say in this particular critical path, there's a delay over here. In B, instead of taking 4 days, somehow it takes 5 days, right? It can be made up in D if we finish it in 1 day instead of 2 days, if that is possible at all, right? That is the only way of making up. Otherwise, a delay in the critical path is a delay in the project. Of course, it can also be made up in the process E, wherein finishing instead of 3 days, you can finish in 2 days also. So overall, the time taken will not exceed 9 days. So that's what we are talking about. So project completion time is the sum of tasks, time for the tasks on the critical path. And the project completion, the critical path, the activities on the critical path are started later than the earliest start time or finished later than the earliest finishing time. Time will have to be saved somewhere, which is what we talked just now, to get this project back to schedule. Slack. Now we just use two terms, slack and float. So slack is something which is a term used for events, right? Which is a larger perspective of things. While float is used for activities, right? Float is used for activities, and slack is used for events, right? So slack basically is the time period, which can be utilized. So definition, if you look at it, please read through it. Essentially, the meaning of it is basically the activity which can be delayed without causing delay in the completion of the project. Now, like in the previous example, we had activity A and activity C, which could have been delayed for a day each. So either of them could have been delayed for about a day, and the project would still be completed on time, provided everything else was on time. So that is slack over there, right? Now, when it is said slack may be positive or negative, it means positive slack simply means that there is idle time which is available. And negative slack, it simply means that the project requires more resources to finish the. It means that the project is running on a delay, so it requires more resources to finish. But normally it is used in a positive sense only. So the term float, it implies fluid, which implies flexibility. So in project scheduling, float refers to amount of scheduling flexibility. Yeah. So also they are sometimes used interchangeably. Float can also be called slack at times, right? So you have got the total float and you have got something called free float. So the total float is basically the sum, the total amount of time and activity can be delayed without delaying the project is the total float. So let's look at the difference between, what's called the total float and what's called free float. So as you know, float or slack, which are used fairly interchangeably. When you talk about total float, it is to do with the total process, right? So consider this example which I had done. So you know the whole process from A to E. If there is a total float which is available over here, right? The amount of time that a scheduled activity can be delayed from its extended or early start date without delaying the project finishing date. Yeah, that is called the total float, which is there. But in terms of free float, that is something else. Free float is to do with the activity. So you know the free float that activity A has is the difference between the time in which the next activity can start and the first activity finishes, right? So we will come to it. Basically the latest start date minus the earliest start date, or the latest finishing date minus the earliest finishing date, is what the total float is for a given activity. For the free float is same as the total float, but the free float is instead of the slack available without affecting the total project, it is about this slack available without affecting the next step. So I would say for C the 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 particular uh, free float which is available is the earliest start of its successor, which is the earliest start of E. E can earliest start after 6 days, right? Okay, minus the earliest finish of the current, which is earliest finish of the current, which is 5 over here. So 1. So the free float that C has is 1, provided A has also finished on time, etc. So we talk about independent. Now, independent float is what is the amount of float which is available for a certain given activity. Let us say if you have an activity C over here. So what is the amount of float which C has? Right? You know, without affecting its predecessor activity, which is A, or successor activity, which is E. Now that is the independent float. Similarly, the independent float that D would have is the amount of float that it is, the amount of slack or float that it is supposed to have without affecting the timing of B and without affecting the timing of E. That is what independent float is about, which need not be there at all points. If we look at this example, this solved example, to understand the concept of the overall flow of the process. So now in this particular network diagram, we have got this dummy. Look at dummy activity 2. The dummy activity 2 has to be created because H and G, activity G and H, they have same starting point and the same finishing point, with the same starting activities and the same finishing the same preceding activities and same succeeding activity, which is the succeeding activity for both of them is J and preceding. So so you have two activities which are G and H, which have the same starting and the same preceding and the same succeeding activities. F is the preceding activity for both, J is the succeeding activity for both. Now since that cannot happen as per the basic convention of the AOA network constructions, you require to create a separate dummy activity, which is D2 over here. That's a dummy activity with a separate node starting 7, so as to complete this particular part of the network. So now we shall compute the earliest finishing time. So we shall compute the earliest finishing time, which is EFT, the earliest start time EST, latest finishing time, which is LFT, and latest start time LST, which are using the pass method, which is the two pass methods, EFT, forward pass and the backward pass, the forward and backward. Let us look at the network flow over here. Now we'll start. Let's consider the activity D. Activity D cannot be completed without the completion of activity A and C. A and C are the preceding activities for activity D to happen. Right? So you have the earliest that it can start. Right? The earliest that activity D can start is 8 days. Why 8 days? Because only after A and C, both are preceding activities of D, only after A and C are both finished, only then you can start. Whereas A finishes in 3 days, but for C to finish, you will require to have B2 also finish. So you have 8 days over here. So earliest start time for activity D is 8 days, and activity D by itself takes 4 more days. So to complete. So the earliest finishing time is 12 days, right? So when you look at it from the beginning and go towards the end, this is called the forward pass over here. So in similar manner, if you take up any other random activity, let's look at activity, let's say J. The activity J, the time that it requires, the activity J, the time it requires is 3 days, right? Now earliest start time, because of the different routes are taken over here, the earliest start time is 20 days, right? So whereas because of the path looking at A, D, E, so this path by itself is going to take 20 days. If we were to look at A, C, F, G or FH, either ways, then the time required would only be 14 days. But then we require to take the maximum between, you see, now this is a junction activity. If you look at it, this particular activity, this particular node 8 is a junction node for J to begin. So for the culminating preceding activities of J to happen, which is activity E, activity H, and activity G to happen, these would all finish at different points. H would finish at 12 days, G would finish at 14 days, and your E would finish at 20 days. So 20 days is the earliest start time. See, for J to start, the earliest start time is 20 days, and the earliest finishing time is 23 days, because the time required for J is 3 days. So it is 20 plus 3, 23. That is the logic used over here. Now we look at backward pass for the same activities. Now backward pass, we start with from activity J actually. Instead of starting from activity A, we start from activity J. So the latest finishing time, if the latest finishing time for activity J is 23, right? So it is 23 weeks over here, or days over here, whatever it is. So the latest start time therefore has to be latest finishing time minus the time required for J to complete. So which is 23 minus 3, which is 20. So we look at the latest start time as 20 weeks over here, or 20 whatever the units, days or weeks, whatever it is. Similarly, for its preceding activity, you look at the latest finishing time for activity I. Again, I is not a preceding activity to J, so let us look at a preceding activity. Let's look at perhaps H over here. So H, the latest finishing time for it is 20 weeks, because for J to start, you have the you have 20 weeks as the latest start time for J. So the latest start time for J is the latest finishing time for H. Now, if you look at H, activity H is actually finishing within 12 units of time, which is 12 days, 12 weeks, or whatever it is. But now that is an ideal case. But given the fact that it is only a preceding activity to activity J, the latest finishing time for activity H is the latest start time for activity J, which is why when you have to calculate the latest start for activity J as 20, you start with the latest finishing time of activity H as 20. That is, again, the time required for activity H is only 2 days. So it is the latest start time for activity H. Latest start time is 20 minus 2, which is 18, and similarly the other activities are calculated. This method of calculation is called the the backward pass, right? Now, the difference between the the latest start time and the earliest start time, right? Now that is what we will be looking at in the next table, right? That is the slack time. Slack time is the difference between the latest start time and the earliest start time. Now, for example, over here we have activity A. It says that the latest start time for activity A is 5 days, right? But the earliest start time for activity A we know is 0. So therefore, the slack time that activity A is supposed to have is latest start time minus earliest start time. It should be 5 days. Let us check if that's the case or not. So we compute the slack time first of all, and thereby from the slack time we are able to arrive at the critical path that comes in. So in the previous slide we understood what is the meaning of slack. So slack, as you understand, is the latest difference between latest finishing time and earliest finishing time. So latest finishing time for activity A we figured out is 8 days, and the earliest finishing time is 3 days. So the difference between these two is 8 minus 3, which is 5 days. So you have a slack of 5 days for activity A. But for activity B to happen, the latest finishing time is 5 days. Earliest finishing time is also 5 days, which means activity B does not have any slack. B has to happen how it has to happen. And then you have activity C. Activity C also does not have the earliest finishing time, latest finishing time match. Does not have. Activity D doesn't have slack. Activity E doesn't have slack. Now activity F, G, H, I, all of these activities, all of these have slacks which are available. I has the maximum slack of 13 days over here. So the thing is that if a activity has a slack, then you have certain let us say flexibility in terms of the time available to finish it. It means it is not on the critical path, right? So the activities which do not have any slack, which is, let us say, B, C, D, E and J, these do not have any all these have zero slack, or they don't have any slack, which means they are on the critical path, right? So therefore your critical path starts with B. You have activity B, C, D, E and J. This is what your critical path is: B, C, D, E and J. This is what the critical path would be. Follow the laser pointer. B, C, D, E and J. That is the critical path. So with this we sum up what critical path method is. So the company called DuPont It is the first one used in 1958, the critical path method, and over here again there is based on assumptions made about which are known with certainty. It is not about uncertain activities. Every activity, as we have already studied, has earliest start and earliest finishing, and latest start and latest finishing times. So, based on the difference of these, you decide what the critical path. Critical path is the largest amount of time consumed in that path. Any path which has got zero slack is a part of the any activity which has got zero slack is a part of the critical path. So in any network, you need not have only one critical path. There can be more than one critical path. Right? The critical path requires to be determined by dark, marked out by a dark thick line or as a double line. Right? That is the crux of it. The activities of the critical path are called critical activities or bottleneck activities, because anything that goes wrong over here will cause a delay in the project. So with this, we are done with this part of CPM, which is the critical path method, and the rest of the slides are only to they are examples. So yeah, so here is an example problem that you are asked to identify critical path, calculate project time. So the solved examples, you can pause and go through. The principles are the same, right? The same example going on over here. As you can see, the critical path has been identified, and it is marked with the darker one. So you have D, E, F, G. This is the critical path, which takes 10 seconds. Forward pass method is used over here. This is a separate example. Again over here, the required project time and critical path. So after having the diagram based on the immediate predecessors of activities, we figure out what is the kind of maximum number of days required. Here we find out the critical path is A, B, D, E, G, H. So all of these, any delay in any of one of these activities is going to create a bottleneck. So there is no slack. Slack